My name is Shelly Snell, and I'm the Senior Marketing Manager here at Knowledge Tree. Peter couldn't make it today, so I will be presenting in his place. Over the course of the session, there will likely be a few questions. The best approach to submitting those will be to email marketing@knowledgetree.com or tweet @KnowledgeTree. Knowledge Tree helps sales teams use effective content to engage and win customers. We do that by predicting which content wins in any sales situation, pushing that winning content to salespeople via salesforce.com and email, and by proving content's revenue impact. Our customers have executed nearly 1 million content sharing actions on our platform. The intelligence gathered from these real-world B2B engagements gives our customers and us insight into what gets content used by sales and what content gets prospects engaged. Okay, let's get started. Over the course of this session, I'll walk through 4 topics. First, why content is so vital to sales teams. We know content helps in the top of the funnel for demand generation activities, but why does it matter in the bottom? Second, we'll highlight the challenges of why content isn't used by most sales teams and look at the scope of the problem. Third, we'll look at how to get salespeople using the content to better, more relevant materials. Last, we'll look at how you can build out a virtuous cycle where effective content that salespeople want to and do use is produced. You might have heard this stat before. It says that the majority of the sales process is complete before a prospect interacts with a salesperson. I've even seen some experts saying that this number is even higher. The point of this data is to illustrate that salespeople have less and less of an impact on a sale. But the data actually comes from analyst firm Serious Decisions, and they've been quick to point out that the data is being misused. These statistics make sense for consumerized products. A low hurdle for a buyer to purchase or trial a product means that a salesperson could actually slow down a buyer's journey. But the question is that the case for your B2B sale? The wrong choice could mean leaving your sales team high and dry without the resources they need to be effective with genuine prospects. Data from Forrester shows that there are many types of B2B buyer journeys. Products have different complexities. The complexity of the purchase process, complexity of the challenge they're addressing, and complexity of the solution to address it. Forrester points out that as complexity on any of these axes increases, it is more and more likely that a salesperson will be critical to the sales process. The second reason why this statistic may not be relevant to you is because of the number of prospects that are actually in market. Consider the ideal buyer from that stat. They know they have a problem, they discover you as a possible solution, they research it, and they self-close. But how many of your targets are actually in market looking for solutions right now? Some sales analysts say as little as 3 to 5% of your potential buyers are actually looking to address the challenge you solve right now. So of course you want to target these folks with educational and awareness materials to help advance the sales conversation. But are your salespeople equipped to engage and advance that 95% of your market? That's especially key when you consider an account-based marketing approach. You simply must equip salespeople to have good conversations with prospects. Why has this happened? It's because there has been a major change in how companies buy. A great resource on this topic is the Challenger Customer from the CEB. It analyzes how difficult it is for salespeople to get attention from prospects. In fact, it now requires 6 people to agree to a solution or to address a problem before a B2B sale can proceed. Not to be outdone, 4 quadrants identify that an average of 20 people need to nod in agreement for a standard B2B deal to proceed. That means that salespeople need to engage their prospects and identify pains in these accounts. They need to build coalitions of support across the decision-making committee, and that's not easy. Marketers have to support the sales team as they seek to build out a justification for changing the status quo. That requires direct support to salespeople for building a business case for change at their prospects. Challenging the status quo matters because even though it hurts to say, we as vendors are likely not the first and last thing that our prospects think about each day. They likely have a stack of priorities well ahead of your potential prospect in most cases. It's often due to priorities. Your prospects may feel that other priorities are greater than what you're proposing, in which case you need to help sales demonstrate why the challenge you address deserves to be a priority. This development of a business case to challenge the status quo is a human-led activity, one that salespeople need to be equipped to address. The result of these changes is that the standard waterfall approach to demand generation has become a fiction. Instead, buyers may engage with you and your company sporadically. They dip their toes into the challenge before retreating and then come back to the problem. You may see this in your funnel with a large number of boomerang accounts. That's why content is so important, not only for nurturing buyers as they identify the need, but also post-identification as the salesperson helps construct a business case. Supporting the buyer journey has traditionally been a sales-led process, but increasingly, marketers have seen the role of marketing automation to help nurture prospects through the process. While true, it is only half the story. The other half is what we just discussed. Salespeople need to be equipped to advance the conversation in one-on-one account-based selling approaches. We ran a survey recently to learn if it was true that salespeople wanted content. The results were very impressive. In fact, just shy of 100% of salespeople said that content was a critical part of their sales process. And about 95% of salespeople said that content had directly impacted their sales results. Despite that need, there's still a massive disconnect. Salespeople want to use content with their prospects. Prospects need content in order to build internal business cases and affect change within their organizations. So all is good, right? No. We're seeing data from Forrester that just 1 out of 5 salespeople add value to the sales conversations they have. When prospects don't see value from their salespeople, they don't have the information they need to influence change across the 20 influencers in their companies. They simply won't be able to push through and change anything. Plus, prospects are much more likely to work with salespeople that are, to use a classic term, trusted advisors. Trusted advisors provide advice that resonates with prospects and helps them to succeed in their own companies. So what's wrong with this picture? Given the past few years of exploding volumes of marketing content, we thought we had sufficient materials to support salespeople. And yet, 80% of marketing content is never used by sales organizations. And in some cases, we've seen that number is still higher. That's a massive amount of material that is left on the shelf. Instead, salespeople are using materials that they built themselves, content that might be off-brand, with old messaging, or simply not resonating for their prospects. From a scale problem, this is huge. It means that salespeople are significantly less engaging with their prospects. The messaging they send and the content they share to help build business cases are simply less interesting for prospects and less likely to advance the deal. Also, when data shows that about 20% of a B2B vendor's marketing budget goes to content on average, that means around 15% of the average marketing spend goes to content that has little direct impact on revenue. So what is going on here? When you think that prospects and salespeople want content marketing and sales enablement are producing it, but it's not getting used, something is wrong. Knowledge Tree analyzed the challenge and discovered that there are 2 primary causes. Let's go through the first one. Salespeople in general know that marketing and sales enablement are producing content for them. They also generally know that it is stored in repositories that let them search for content. It might be on their website in the Resources tab. It could be on the blog. It could be in an internal portal or file sharing tool. Or maybe it's in the marketing automation platform. In each of these cases, the salesperson is expected to leave what they're doing, i.e., leave their process and go to some other tool to access content. That might involve searching for materials or digging through folders to find relevant content. That's great that the sales team is searching, but do they know what to search for? Searching for a case study could lead to many irrelevant case studies, content that simply does not resonate with a given prospect. Some estimates put the time wasted searching for materials as high as 20% of a salesperson's day. Regardless, it is high enough that it is an efficiency challenge and one that needs to be addressed. I won't go too far down this path, as we've covered it before in other webinars, but the challenge here is one of discovery. Classic situation is that content sprawls across many locations, and it is too frustrating and time-consuming for a salesperson to hunt for the content. When a time-starved salesperson has to disrupt their workflow to find content, it's going to lead to alternatives, and that generally means not using content, using salesperson-generated content, or using the same content that's been previously downloaded. The second reason, and the one we'll focus on for the rest of the session, is because of confidence. Salespeople lack confidence that the content that marketing provides will actually help them in the real world. The content they want to use is going to be for a specific prospect. That prospect might have certain industry-specific needs, might be a certain persona, or might be at a particular stage in the sales process. If the content is not right for the current status or demographics, it's less likely to be effective at advancing a deal. If a salesperson sends a generic, non-specific piece of content, is it no wonder that a prospect would be disinterested? Individual prospects' needs are shaped by the kinds of companies they work for, by the specific challenges they face, and what kinds of needs and risks their role in their organizations expose them to. So a financial services case study is not necessarily going to resonate with a retailer, and a technical paper may not be interesting to someone that cares primarily about the business. From interviewing and surveying salespeople, we've managed to break down this problem of lack of confidence into 3 subpoints. Let's take a look at each of them in more detail and how to address each challenge. Let's be realistic about the kinds of content that marketing produces. Particularly for technical topics, it can be difficult for marketers to produce meaningfully detailed content. A great example is IBM's Blue Books. These are detailed technical papers built by IBM's experts who are given time off from their day-to-day in order to produce rich technical content. But for the average marketer, this level of content detail is simply not possible. That is in contrast with top-of-funnel materials that marketing is often associated with. Infographics and blog posts might be great for awareness and interest, but they aren't necessarily the kinds of pieces that help build a business case. Salespeople need to be confident that the content they send has the heft needed to prove competency in the market and the impact of their solution. If a salesperson is simply sending the first piece of content that they have access to, a white paper or a generic slide deck, is it a surprise that the prospect would consider the salesperson to not be adding value? That content the prospect can get from the website with virtually no effort. No wonder a salesperson may use an infographic or blog content early in a sale, but not later. Salespeople are naturally competitive, and when they see that one of their colleagues is being successful, they want to replicate and exceed their peer. But in general, they have no idea whether or not specific pieces of content were effective and whether they should adopt them. Here's an example. If you've been in marketing long enough, you've likely heard a situation like this. One salesperson closes a major deal, and they closed it with the help of the salesperson's own unique presentation. Suddenly, everyone else wants that slide deck, and they start using it across all of their deals. Put aside the massive delta in salesperson aptitude for a second. The magic elixir of the custom presentation is not a one-size-fits-all situation. Content that resonated and advanced one prospect is not necessarily going to work for another. If a salesperson could understand which content actually drove sales in a given sales situation, their confidence level would significantly increase. The third reason why salespeople lose confidence in sharing marketing content is because of a lack of understanding of how to actually share it. Consider an ebook or technical paper. How should the salesperson position it to their prospects? If they simply select it because it seems technical for technical audience, it might be completely off base. And if they simply throw a piece of content over the wall to their prospects without contextualizing it and positioning how it supports the business case, then it is less likely to be used or appreciated by the champion. Okay, with these challenges now on the board, let's look into how we can address them and go back through the problems we identified. The first one is the most straightforward. Salespeople, especially for more technical products, are confident about how to position their content. Yes, training on content usage is helpful, and of course you can provide links and summaries that help, and you should. But the best and fastest way to inspire confidence is through email templates. Give your sales team the 3 key takeaways or stats for a given piece of content. That gives them a starting point for contextualizing content for prospects. The second way to address the need is by identifying which content wins by sales situation. When salespeople have confidence that their peers were successful with content, they're going to use it in similar sales situations. Our customers do this in several different ways. First, they send digests to their sales team each week, letting them know which content their colleagues have used and which content was, in general, most effective. This creates a competitive environment where reps are spurred to share more content more frequently. Second, they rank content recommendations to reps based on the Sales Content Impact, or SCI score, for each piece of content. This is an algorithmically generated number that assesses the effectiveness of content by sales situation. The higher the score, the greater the confidence the salesperson has in that content. Third, they push recommendations to peers based on the actual closed-won deals. This is a lot like a win wire, except instead of passively advising reps on what content works for a deal, our customers suggest winning content to reps with similar sales situations. Again, confidence in the content goes way up if salespeople see that their peers are succeeding with that material. Now let's turn to one of the most critical elements in building a strategy that gives reps content they need and prospects want. That is, building the right content for the sales funnel. When marketing knows what content works in the sales funnel, they can produce more. So how do you go about understanding what works? This is perhaps the most obvious. Interview your salespeople. Talk to them about what has worked for them and what hasn't. What do they feel like is missing from the content portfolio? You're likely to get an earful, and that's okay. You need to hear their pain in order to understand better what to build. In essence, marketers should reevaluate their content portfolio, this time from a sales perspective. Even a light understanding of the sales process, common blockers in the process, and information needs for prospects later in the journey can be critical. When marketers know how their sales colleagues interact with prospects, they can better identify what content ought to be built or enhanced. Some materials make more sense in an upper funnel world, but what will work lower? It might be detailed business case information, analyst research, case studies. The emphasis will vary by organization, but you need to find out. Second, you need to understand what content is actually effective in different sales situations, and that means going to the data. What does that mean? It means first identifying your various sales situations that lead to meaningful differences in how your sales team can influence prospects. For instance, it might be by industry, sales stage, solution area, geography, or persona. These are the 5 most commonly used in our industry analysis. To segment content messaging based on the attributes that matter to your organization. Next, track which content is used in each sales situation. Then use success criteria to measure effectiveness. Our clients automatically get these metrics using Knowledge Tree. The success criteria vary by where you are in a sales process. But essentially, in the middle of the funnel, the metric is the SCI score, or Sales Content Impact. This is similar to a click-through rate, measuring the level of engagement a prospect has with content shared by sales. The second measure is revenue attribution. Identify which content was used on opportunities that were won and lost. And as you make correlations across content pieces, you'll be able to see the ROI on specific content and identify which elements are winners and where you should double down on content production. We've seen some staggering results from this kind of approach. Looking back at the data we've gathered, we can see that this kind of approach of targeting content based on elements like sales stage, persona, product being sold, competitive situation, etc., actually doubles the rate of engagement that your prospects have with content from salespeople. That can have an incredible effect on advancing sales conversations. But which types of content should you produce? The not fun answer is that it depends. You do need to analyze your own data to understand which kinds of content perform best for your own unique sales situation. That being said, there are guidelines that we're seeing from the data that can help you get a head start. And at Knowledge Tree, we feel like we have a pretty strong grip on this challenge. Our insights stem from our customers who've had nearly 1 million B2B share events. And that gives us a range of intelligence about what content is effective in different sales situations. We'll take a look at some of those results now. So we've looked into which content types are successful in different sales stages. It's important to recognize that every company is different, and you'll need to assess the effectiveness of content versus your own buyer journey. But with that in mind, let's take a look at what data across customers is showing us. First, we've decided to measure based on the engagement level by content. That is, how frequently was content viewed or downloaded by prospects when it was shared. Second, we looked at how content performed early in the sales process versus late in the buyer's journey, and we rolled up the data across a set of our customers. Early in the sales process, presentations and videos are highly engaged with. Prospects appear to want overview-type information in order to validate that there is a genuine need. They'll use these kinds of introductory content that are easy to digest in order to socialize internally and build awareness with their target accounts. Videos we're seeing get a 29% engagement score, and presentations come in at 34%. Meanwhile, we're seeing that blog content at 12% in general is highly shared, but is among the lowest performing of materials. This appears to be because it is shared very early in the process to generate awareness, but it's prior to a genuine interest. You may consider whether blog posts should be focused more for marketing automation, or whether to develop highly targeted posts that aim at very specific information needs. A surprising result was the high score of implementation guides at 32%. This kind of content is generally associated with the bottom of the funnel, but we're seeing it perform well early in the sales process. Why? It appears that the content helps buyers understand the scale of effort required to implement a solution. When they know what's involved, they have more comfort about moving forward. Late in the sales process, we're seeing different kinds of content performing better. Video continues to be the top performing asset, now by an increased margin at 72%. But we're also seeing a massive rise in the importance of data sheets and case studies, 69 and 52% respectively. Standard best practice would suggest that these two content types are most valuable early in the sales process, but we're seeing that these content pieces are highly engaged with late in the sales process. Why? Well, imagine you're a buyer trying to coordinate purchasing across those 20 internal decision makers. You need to present the value and prove that others have been successful, hence the importance of case studies late. Much like you might see a prospect asking for references to understand rollout challenges. Also, the high engagement levels of data sheets might owe something to the need to know, what am I getting? A data sheet that lists out functionality fulfills that role. Will your content match exactly with the data we're seeing? Of course not. But hopefully this can provide some guidance to direct your own content creation efforts. When you give your sales team confidence in the content you're producing, you can significantly increase the best use of content. When you look at the data for our own customers, the results have been impressive. We're seeing a lift from just 20% marketing content getting used by sales teams to nearly 83%. That's more than a 3 times lift in content usage. But the real result isn't just about content use. It's about the marketing contribution to rep effectiveness and, critically, to revenue. Because marketing is now directly influencing real sales, it has a major impact on the strategic goals. So just to recap, the challenge of getting sales reps to use your content is a strategically important one. If reps aren't using your materials, they're wasting an opportunity to engage and advance prospects, and they're losing deals as a result. To address the issue, you have to look at the root causes of why reps aren't using your materials. They can't find what they need, and they're not confident about using your content. To address the issue, you need to take 3 key steps. Predict which content is most effective by sales situation. When you have data about content performance, you can suggest winning materials to your reps. Push recommended content to your sales team. Don't wait for your reps to come to your content. Get it into your hands. Prove content's effectiveness by sales situation. Let your marketing team reinvest in content that makes it truly effective. When you do that, you're able to get radically more content used and increase the results of your sales organization. So thank you again for joining me today. Again, if there are any questions, please send them to marketing@knowledgetree.com or @knowledgetree, and we'll be sure to address them. I will also be following up in a blog post on the topic. Thank you again.